Welcome to One on One, the Daily Items weekly digital program featuring Susquehanna Valley newsmakers interviewed by Daily Item reporters. Today's guest is Rick Vilello, the Deputy Secretary of Community Affairs and Development, interviewed by reporter Francis Scarcella.
Sunbury Motors needs your truck. Whether it's a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, or even an import, SMC will give you the most money for your truck. Period. Sunbury Motors is going to make it easier for you to trade too, with a selection of over 125 new Ford trucks with savings up to $13,650. New 2018 Ford F-150s start as low as $25,993. And SMC has 4 city blocks of new trucks to choose from. New arrivals include 4 special edition 2018 Ford Raptors and the all-new blacked-out 2018 F-250 Terminator. A must-see! The 2018 Ford F-150 is Motor Trend's Truck of the Year and has been America's best-selling truck for 41 consecutive years. One is sold every 39 seconds. Sunbury Motors has an awesome selection, including regular cabs, super cabs, Super Cruise, with STX, XLT, Lariat, and King Ranch trucks clearly marked with blowout prices. See why SMC is Central Pennsylvania's Ford truck capital. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza.
Welcome to One on One. I'm Francis Scarcella. This week we're joined with DCED Deputy Secretary for Community Affairs, Rick Vilello. How are you today?
I'm good. It's a hot day in Sunbury, and it's good to be in the air conditioning.
And you were out here today to tour some of the blighted properties up in the Shamokin area of Northumberland County.
That's correct. I'm Deputy Secretary of Community Affairs, and before I was at DCED, I was the mayor of Lockhaven for 16 years. And under my umbrella on the community side of DCED, one of the things that we try to help with is fighting blight, attacking blight, and getting communities to think differently about, what they should be working on as far as blight.
And that's one of the things I'm going to jump to. One of the things I picked out when you were there is you said that Shamokin, I guess Northumberland County area does this the right way. So what is it that you look for that makes it stand out as far as us doing things the right way?
The last couple of years, they've really gotten with the program, so to say, from doing blight inventories and the county and the municipalities are working together, identifying the properties that need addressed, and then going through the steps with code enforcement, sheriff's sale, judicial sale, and trying to attack the problem. Now, it's a really, really big problem in all of Pennsylvania, but they've been, really one property at a time going at the problem.
Based on the population that we have, is this one of the worst? Our area is one of the worst in Pennsylvania?
Oh, no.
No?
No, it really is a problem statewide, from the poorest communities to the wealthiest communities. There are a lot of factors that lead to blight, but it really is a statewide issue.
That's actually what we were going to ask you is what do you see when you go into these? What are the things or reasons why?
Population moving and population shifts has really led to an overstock of buildings, especially in these older communities. You'll see grandmama and grandpa live in a home. Their children and grandchildren have moved to other areas. Grandmom or grandpa pass away, and the family really has no need for the property, and it starts decline in that building. And having a strategy, working on what we're going to look like next is really important.
Several years ago, and this is just a question I actually have, several years ago when banks were giving out all the loans to anybody who was applying at the time. Do you see a lot of those houses now come back and haunt the?
After 2008, there was a big shift, and the challenge now is when you go to judicial sale, there are people that'll buy a property that have never even been in this part of Pennsylvania from New York City, from all over, and they go on to these auctions and they buy a house as an investment and they think they're going to flip it, and they watch HGTV or whatever the fad is and think, oh, I'm going to become a landlord. And then, in some of these areas, the repairs required far exceed the value of the house. So it becomes a challenge on, it becomes a burden on the municipality and the taxpayers.
So they let it sit there, and then nothing ever gets done, and before you know it, then it's in the worst shape ever.
Yep, and it's the cycle again. They don't pay their taxes. It goes to sheriff's sale and then judicial sale, and it really is a vicious cycle.
So they're saying that there's about 300,000 vacant properties in.
Nobody really knows, because every area. One of the things that we encourage is in blight inventory, but the estimates are at least 300,000 properties statewide, and like the city of Philadelphia, the estimates are between 80 and 100,000 just in the city of Philadelphia.
Wow. And now, obviously, it's important to get these houses back on tax rolls and stuff like that. But why? What are other reasons why is it important to get these houses either back, tore down?
It's really important to change attitudes. And, it's easy to think in the 1960s or 1970s were the golden years. But when you think about the age of most of our municipalities, and when we look around, we're a lot younger than places in Europe and Asia. And, we have to think about not just next year, but what are we going to look like in 2035 and 2050? And what is the right size for our communities? Yeah, when coal was king, we boomed. But, okay, what's next? And, if people are going to commute and we're going to be bedroom communities, what's the appropriate number of houses, and how do we get to that number?
When you were mayor of Lock Haven, did you see this a lot in your town?
We struggled with some blighted properties and some turnover. It really is a challenge. And in Lock Haven, we struggled with a really high percentage of rental income properties and students and senior citizens living in rental conditions, and keeping them up in the property maintenance code and code enforcement are really, really important.
And with that, we'll be right back.
Sunbury Motors needs your truck. Whether it's a Ford, Chevy, Dodge, or even an import, SMC will give you the most money for your truck. Period. Sunbury Motors is going to make it easy for you to trade too, with a selection of over 125 new Ford trucks with savings up to $13,650. New 2018 Ford F-150s start as low as $25,993.
And SMC has 4 city blocks of new trucks to choose from.
New arrivals include 4 special edition 2018 Ford Raptors and the all-new blacked-out 2018 F-250 Terminator.
A must-see.
The 2018 Ford F-150 is Motor Trend's Truck of the Year and has been America's best-selling truck for 41 consecutive years.
One is sold every 39 seconds.
Sunbury Motors has an awesome selection, including regular cabs, super cabs, Super Cruise, with STX, XLT, Lariat, and King Ranch trucks clearly marked with blowout prices. See why SMC is Central Pennsylvania's Ford Truck Capital. Sunbury Motors in the North 4th Street Auto Plaza.
Welcome back to One on One. We're joined with DCED Deputy Secretary for Community Affairs, Rick Vilello. Yes. A couple more questions for you. So here in Sunbury itself, I'm sure you're familiar with Sunbury. They added maybe 24 or so properties to the nuisance list a couple weeks ago. So with that, they're having problems because it's hard to find owners. It's hard to find who has anything to do with the house, relatives, whatever. What can people? What are the rights for the city? I know they have been doing a lot of. They come and take the property over, and then they'll either raise it or put it back on an auction to sell it. But what do you see a lot of that, and what are the rights people have?
One of the biggest challenges today with banks foreclosing, owners disappearing, people using shell companies to buy properties. Once a property's on the way down, aggressively keeping track of the property is a real challenge for every municipality. And one of the things is to work with the banks if it's going to foreclosure, but staying aggressive and keeping track of ownership is the biggest challenge for code enforcement.
So what can they do? Like, what proactive steps can these cities and municipalities take?
There are some different property registries that are available online that if you know that a property is vacant or in foreclosure, that there is a registry and they can just Google the property registries. And then that gives them one point of contact for serving like weed and snow ordinance violations, if windows break and those things. And they're national registries. There's 4 or 5 companies that are doing that, and I always encourage municipalities to put the properties in.
Is it safe to say that code enforcement, I mean, you can issue fines all you want, but if they're not paying them, they're not paying them. So is there any other tools or anything that people municipalities can do?
Some municipalities are starting to do nuisance ticketing. Just like you can get a speeding ticket, you can create a ticketing program. So instead of your first step being sending out a letter, it's sending out a $25 ticket, and then they have 14 days to pay the ticket, and then the next step would be for the municipality to cut the grass or, shovel the snow or board up the broken window and lien the property, and that adds up.
But it could end up being a municipality or city problem. I mean,
it always is a city or municipality problem.
Right. I mean, as far as the code enforcement's got to go out and they got to do all that kind of stuff anyway when that happens, and you probably see that all the time.
You do, and the places that ignore it, that fall behind on it, that's whether you're going downhill or uphill. It really is important to support your code enforcement department, your code enforcement officers. It's one of those thankless jobs. It's like the person enforcing parking meters, not very popular, but it really is important for all the other taxpayers.
Is there any legislation in Harrisburg right now that'll help municipalities?
There's a bunch of different blight bills that are proposed. Now, between now and when the budget gets done, it's all about getting the budget done, but there is some hope to give municipalities more tools in fighting blight, in being able to go through the ownership process quicker. There's a package of about 6 bills, but you still have to work on it even when there's still things out there that could potentially make it easier.
How do you guys go about deciding who gets what money for help and stuff like that? Is that through a long, rigorous process, or?
Most of the applications are through the single application process, and we have a couple different programs that can help municipalities with blight, from Keystone Communities, CDBG, weatherization, LIHEAP. All can be different tools for fighting blight.
Do you like to go tour these properties when they come in? Do you try to make it out and see which?
The big ones like the Schroyer building
In
Shamokin is one, because we have $600,000 in that one. That's a huge one. But like if it's a single family dwelling, you won't go out. Yeah. We won't go out.
You did say something else that caught my attention today with this, is that not it's not all one lump sum anymore. It's various monies coming from all over the place. So there's no real big pots of money anymore. When you look at probably 15, 20 years ago, it would be nothing for a community to get a $500,000 grant. But today it's all about putting puzzle pieces together. And there are people here that know how to put the puzzle together and go to DCED for a piece, to go to DCNR for a piece, to go to USDA for a piece.
use some home money. And this region has been really fortunate working with CEDACOG, working with the county to put the packages together.
That's why you say they do it right, is because they're putting all these pieces to this puzzle.
It's really hard.
Yeah.
It's not like you can go to DCED and get a $500,000 check.
Right. Is there any reluctance to use grant funds to demolish things rather than like build things, like playgrounds and bridges, stuff like that?
Each program is a little bit different, and me as Deputy Secretary of Community Development, and this is where having been a mayor makes a difference. You have to do the community development, the good projects, building the playgrounds, and you have to do the blight projects, and you have to balance that out for community growth. If you do all blight and you're just knocking buildings down and if you don't have a plan for what you want to look like, that's not healthy for the community either. It's important to have a plan on what you want to look like in 2035 or 2040 and stick to the plan. I mean, there's always something that comes up that's a problem, but you still kind of have to steer your course back to whatever's in the plan.
And here's a tough question for you. This will be the toughest one you face. Do you miss being a mayor?
Every day.
Why? Was it easier than doing this?
No, it was actually harder. My mayor's job was part-time, like many in the state. It paid $37.50 a week. But just like my role now, your role as mayor is solving problems. And people would come up, Mayor, this is happening. Can you help me? And usually you could find a way to help. And I try to bring that to my role at the state. These places call and need help, and it's neat trying to find a way to help.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us. We appreciate you coming in, and we'll see you next week for another edition of One on One.
Thank you for watching One on One. We hope you will join us this coming Thursday at noon for a new installment.